How many hours do you think you've actually put into GTA 5? Be honest with yourself for a second. Have you really seen everything Los Santos is hiding? Or did you beat the story, do a few heists, mess around and free roam, and kind of move on thinking, yeah, I've seen it all? Because what happens after you stop treating GTA 5 like a crime sandbox and start treating it like a horror game mixed with a conspiracy board is a completely different experience. And in this video I'm going to show you just how deep that rabbit hole really goes. Rockstar hid over 100 distinct mystery, secrets, and unanswered questions in this map, and the game never sits you down and explains any of them. I'm talking about stuff you only notice when you're bored at 3 a.m. in game and you decide to hike up some random mountain for no reason, like you've probably heard about the Mount Gordo ghost, but have you actually gone there between 23:00 and midnight, watched her fade if you get too close, and then seen the name Jock written in blood on the rock? That's not a side mission, that's just there haunting the coastline forever. And that's only one ghost. You know what happens after you start looking up instead of straight ahead? Suddenly there are UFOs over Fort Zancudo that only spawn during thunderstorms at 3 a.m. There are saucers locked in ice above Mount Chiliad, and even a weird drawing in Solomon Richards' office that matches them. All like Rockstar is quietly screaming at you to connect the dots while Lester is busy talking about stock tips. Alright, so here's how it goes. Most players never go back to places like Mount Chiliad once the story is done. They don't dive under Fort Zancudo during a storm. They don't comb the ocean floor where an alien UFO is just sitting there like it crashed on day one and nobody in the story ever mentions it. Instead you finish the big score. Maybe you replay a heist and you miss the fact that there's a serial killer whose victims you can actually find, even though the game never gives you a proper mission for it. In this video I'm going to show you all of it: the cut missions, the unused interiors, the Epsilon program weirdness, the radio ads that sound like they're trolling you, and the Infinity Killer notes that turn the whole desert into a crime scene. The first thing that happens when you put all these clues next to each other is the map stops feeling like an open world and starts feeling like a corkboard covered in red string. And here's the messed up situation: some of these mysteries have been argued about for over a decade. Whole communities are still fighting over whether the Chiliad mural is an actual puzzle, a scrap jetpack DLC hook, or Rockstar just laughing at everyone. It's a real low blow if it is, but we're going to walk through each of the 100 mysteries one by one, and by the end you'll never look at Los Santos at 3 a.m. the same way again. So let's get started. So here's how it goes tonight. We're not just talking about a couple of ghost sightings and calling it a day. This is a full run through 100 separate GTA V mysteries in one giant tour. Urban legends, cut content hints, secret interiors, cults, UFOs, serial killers, weird world events. If it's been argued about on a forum at 3 a.m., it's on the list. And I want to make this super clear before we dive in, because you know how it is with Kara Creepypasta. In this video, I'm going to show you only things that actually exist in the game files and real in-game triggers. No modded Slenderman, no Photoshop Ratman in story mode. No my cousin's friend saw this on PS3 stuff. If you're on console or PC, you can copy exactly what I do and get the same result. That's why every mystery we hit, I'm going to give you the exact time, location, and conditions. You'll see the clock, the weather, which character I'm using, even if I had to wait for a thunderstorm. You want the Mount Gordo ghost? I'll show you 23 to 00000, the rock you stand on, how she disappears if you get too close and leaves that blood written Jock behind. You can literally pause, copy the setup, and try it in your own save. Alright, to keep this from turning into pure chaos, the video is split into big arcs. First, we're starting with the ghost stories and horror elements. All the stuff that makes Tavi feel like it's secretly a horror game. Ghost cars, phantom trains, stalker NPCs that only spawn at night. We'll go through what happens after you hit each trigger, and which ones are actually repeatable, not just one-off glitches. After that, we move into cults and conspiracies, the Epsilon program, weird billboards, hidden texts, the blue robes, the free money, and that missing track 9 that never shows up. Is it cut content or Rockstar trolling? It's a messed up situation, but we're going to walk through every clue the game actually gives you. Then we go deep into the Mount Chiliad and UFO saga, the mural, the glyphs, the alien egg, the Fort Zancudo saucer that appears at 3 a.m. during a thunderstorm and vanishes if you try to fly up with a jet. We'll connect that to the underwater UFO and even the drawing in Solomon Richards' office. Does it all line up, or is it a real low blow to the community? From there, we'll hit hidden mechanics and rare events, like the Infinity Killer clues, stock market tricks, and world events most players never trigger. Finally, we'll close with cut content and unresolved questions, the beta missions and interiors that only survive as leftovers in the files. By the end, you'll feel like we just did a guided tour through every rabbit hole in Los Santos, starting with the stuff you've heard of, and ending in the developer-level secrets the community had to datamine to understand. And the first thing that happens is we head straight into the ghosts. But before we dive off the deep end here, look, I need you to do one thing so you don't forget later. This is basically a full movie. We're going to be here for around 117 minutes, going through every rabbit hole, every ghost, every UFO, every cut mission. If you want more long-form deep dives like this, hit like right now, while your brain is still fresh, and you're not 3 mysteries and wondering what year it is. Alright, real talk for a second. I can see the stats. Most of you watching this are not subscribed. If you've ever fallen down a GTAV rabbit hole at 3 a.m., watching shaky camera footage of the Mount Gordo ghost, or some guy claiming he saw a jetpack under Chiliad, you are literally who this channel is for. If you binge mystery compilations, if you've ever typed GTA 5 creepy into the search bar, just subscribe now so you don't have to find this again later. In this video I'm going to show you 100 different mysteries, but I also want your version of Los Santos in here. So here's how it goes. While you're watching, if something I show you reminds you of your own weird encounter, drop it in the comments with a timestamp. I had the Mount Gordo ghost spawn twice in a row. That kind of thing. Comments with good timestamps and details might end up in a future Viewer Mysteries episode, where I literally build an entire video out of your clips and stories. So if you've ever had a phantom train slam through you in Blaine County, or you swear you saw a UFO flash over Fort Zancudo during a thunderstorm, write it down, keep notes, and throw it in the comments after. What happens after this upload might actually be shaped by what you've seen in your own game, which is kind of wild when you think about it. Alright, enough setup. Let's get started with the first big one. We're opening with a mystery almost everyone has heard about, but almost nobody has actually triggered properly. The Mount Gordo ghost. You know the one, right? Cliffside, fog, random hikers screaming in the distance. But if you don't hit the exact window between 23:0 and 00:00, and if you walk too close, she just vanishes and leaves that blood-written name on the rock. From here, expect fast pacing. I'm going to be calling out time markers. We'll be cutting hard between locations, and you'll hear a mix of raw, in-game audio, and me breaking down what you're seeing so it never drags. 1 second, we're on Mount Gordo at 23:45. The next, we're freezing the frame on that jock message and asking what it really means. So, lights off if you're brave, volume up, and meet me on the cliff. The ghost is waiting. Alright, so here's how it goes. You spawn in as Franklin, Michael, whoever you want, and we're heading east. No missions, no waypoints, just you, the car, and a bad idea. You follow that lonely rail line that hugs the coast, and as the sun drops, the whole side of Mount Gordo starts to feel wrong. The ocean down below is just black water and white foam, the rocks are jagged, and there's this thin layer of fog that makes the headlights look weaker than they should. You pull up near the little campsite on the cliff and kill the engine. Listen to how quiet it gets. No city noise. Just waves and the distant horn of a train that might not even be there. In this video, I'm going to show you that GTA V kind of turns into a horror game right here if you let it. You check the in-game phone. It's 22:40. Too early. You wait. Maybe you walk to the edge. Look down at the rocks. Try not to slip. At 23 low exactly, the first thing that happens is the mountain literally spawns a ghost. She fades in over the rocks like a glitch the game is trying to hide from you. White dress, long dark hair, but the face is the part that really hits you. It's all wrong, like the texture didn't load properly. From a distance you can see these dark smudges where her eyes and mouth should be, and she just hovers there, frozen, staring at you without moving. No music sting, no cutscene, just this thing, waiting between 23 go and 0000 every single night. Now, you know how GTA usually works. See something weird? You run right up to it. But this is where Rockstar flips it. If you try to get close, if you push up past that invisible line, she doesn't attack you, she doesn't scream, she just instantly vanishes. It's a messed up situation, because the only jump scare you get is the emptiness. One frame she's there, next frame she's gone, and all that's left on the rock is this blood red word, Jock. No last name, no explanation, just a single word like the mountain itself is accusing somebody. And that's where the lore kicks in. You've seen Jock Cranley on billboards, heard him on the radio, this washed-up stuntman turned politician who wants to be governor. The in-game interviews mention his wife, Jolene Cranley Evans, and this rumor that she fell off a cliff during a hike. Locals think he pushed her. Jock denies it. The cops never prove it. But what happens after you stand on this cliff at midnight and stare at that ghost is pretty clear. Rockstar is basically saying, yeah, he did it. No mission marker, no arrest, no closure. Just a dead woman stuck in a loop, reliving her fall every night while her husband runs for office. It's a real low blow when you realize the most honest thing in his campaign is the blood on this rock. And the wild part? This is one of the obvious horror moments. Coming up, we're going into stuff that doesn't glow, doesn't float, and absolutely doesn't want you to find it. So if the bloody cliffside politician is one of the obvious horror moments, what happens after you turn off the mission markers and just drive around Los Santos at 3 a.m.? The game stops holding your hand, and that's when the rabbit hole really starts to feel alive. Alright, first we have to talk about the ghost cars. If you've ever been up near Chiliad or over by Raton Canyon late at night, you know exactly what I mean. You're hiking or driving along one of those sketchy dirt roads. It's foggy. You hear the wind. And you spot a random car just parked on a slope. No driver. No headlights. You look away for a second, and the first thing that happens is this thing slowly starts rolling down the hill by itself like it's possessed. So here's how it goes behind the scenes. These cars actually spawn as abandoned vehicles, and the game's physics engine is just doing its thing on uneven ground. Gravity kicks in, the handbrake isn't really on, the wheels catch a rock, and suddenly you've got a sedan barreling past you with no one in it. But when it's 3 a.m., you're in first person and the only light is your phone screen. It does not feel like a physics quirk. It feels like the map is mad at you. Then you've got the phantom trains. Players swear they hear a horn, see a light in the distance, line up on the tracks, and nothing goes by. Or even weirder, they see the headlights sweep around a bend, but when it reaches them, there's no locomotive. In this video, I'm going to show you how a normal system turns into a campfire story. The game streams trains in and out based on distance and angle. Sound travels farther than the model's load, and heavy fog or rain can hide the body of the train, while the light source still bleeds through. So your brain fills in the gaps and goes, ghost. And it's not just vehicles. Free roam at night is full of tiny moments that feel wrong in just the right way. You'll be driving through the countryside and hear a woman scream way off in the trees. But there's no event marker, no red dot, nothing to save. Sometimes you'll hear an explosion behind you, spin the camera, and there's just a smoking car with nobody around. NPCs will stop on the sidewalk and stare at you a little too long, like they're waiting for a script that never starts. It's a messed up situation because the AI is just doing pathing and idle animations, but it feeds perfectly into creepypasta culture. Look, this is where we have to split things in two. On one side, you've got confirmed scripted stuff, the Mount Gordo ghosts with their strict spawn time, the UFOs with exact weather requirements, all that. On the other side, you've got community myth-making, where a rolling car, a delayed sound, or a glitched pedestrian turns into proof of a demon in the code. Both are fun, and honestly, both are why the map feels haunted even when you know better. But unlike the ghost cars and phantom trains, the next thing isn't an accident at all. It's 100% deliberate, documented in the game files, and it belongs in a true crime documentary more than an open-world sandbox. Coming up, we're going from rumors to a real monster, the Infinity Killer. Rockstar's hidden serial killer storyline that you're never officially asked to solve. And that's where things get a lot darker. Alright, so here's how it goes. You're cruising around sandy shores, expecting the usual chaos, and then you stumble on this one house that just feels wrong. The windows are boarded, the yard is dead, and every wall is covered in scratched-on graffiti about numbers and infinity. This is where you meet Merle Abrahams, the Infinity Killer. Except you never actually meet him. The first thing that happens is your eyes go straight to that phrase. 8 is just infinity stood up. It's scrawled over and over like he's trying to convince himself it means something. Then you see they want me to confess. They're watching. And all these paranoid ramblings that sound like a serial killer manifesto mixed with a math problem. You walk around the porch and it's just more of it, like the whole house is screaming at you. But the game never pops a mission marker. No prompt. No cutscene. Nothing inside the world. The story is hiding in scraps. You can find newspaper clippings talking about missing joggers. This weird pattern of runners vanishing along the coast. There are notes about Merle's arrest, his trial, how he's accused of killing 8 people. But again, you don't get a go here waypoint. You're basically reading a murder case on your own time, like you accidentally broke into the evidence locker. After that, if you start really paying attention, the map turns into a crime scene. All around Blaine County, carved into rocks and walls, you find these creepy little verses. Each one references the victims. The number 8, the ocean, infinity. One is on the side of a boulder near the Alamo Sea. Another is etched into a rock out on the coast. There are 8 of these clues in total, and the game never tells you they exist. You just kind of trip over them. Or you watch some poor soul on YouTube trying to connect them all. Follow the trail long enough and it all points one way, out to sea. So you grab a boat or a sub and you head off the coast of San Andreas to this random patch of water that, on the surface, looks completely normal. But when you dive, that's when it hits you this was a real monster. Down on the seabed, chained together, are body bags, multiple, lined up in a row like a grim checklist. It confirms everything the graffiti was ranting about. The Infinity Killer existed. The police never properly solved it. And you just solved the case the game never even told you was open. But here's what happens after all that work. Nothing. No cutscene, no confrontation, no achievement pop-up. Merle dies off-screen in prison. You never get to talk to him. And the whole thing feels like you walked into the middle of a mission Rockstar forgot to finish. It's a messed up situation, and it makes you wonder how many other stories in this game are half buried the same way. Which is exactly where the next mystery starts getting even weirder. Alright, so if Rockstar never gives you a proper mission, how do you actually get inside Merle Abrahams' head? You don't get a cutscene. You don't get a confession. You get handwriting on rocks in the middle of nowhere. And when you start reading it out loud, it hits way harder than you expect. The first thing that happens is you find one of those scratched notes out in Sandy Shores. It says something like, "They want me because I understand them. I see the infinite." 8 is just infinity stood up. That's not just some random crazy guy rambling. He's obsessed with the shape, the symbol, like he's proud that he gets something nobody else does. You can almost hear him saying it in your ear while you're just standing there with Trevor, staring at a rock. Then you move to another spot, another scribble. 1 is done, 2 is fun, 3 try to run. 4 called the law, 5 didn't survive, 6 is nix, 7's in heaven, and 8 won't wait. It reads like a nursery rhyme from hell. It's playful, it's sing-song, and it's about 8 murdered hikers. You know when a game makes you read something and you kind of want to stop halfway through? This is that moment. Look at the way he talks about himself too. One of the notes has him saying, he's been chosen to see beyond the 9, like there's some secret layer of reality that only opens up if you worship this stupid sideways 8 long enough. That's where your brain starts going. Okay, who chose him? Was it just the voices in his head? Or is this Rockstar quietly nodding at all the other weird cult energy in the game? The Epsilon program, the Chiliad mural, the UFOs, all that stuff starts to feel like it's brushing up against Merle without ever touching him. And the placements are evil in their own way. These aren't glowing collectibles on your minimap. They're on the backside of a random boulder, or sprayed along a broken wall you'd never see unless you crashed your bike and wandered around. You don't stumble into this story like a quest marker. You earn it by being the same kind of obsessive the killer is. You comb the desert. You circle the Alamo Sea. You read graffiti in the dark. After you've pieced it all together, Los Santos doesn't feel like a goofy crime sandbox anymore. Suddenly the world is full of stuff that happened when you weren't there. 8 people died off screen. A serial killer rotted in a cell off screen. No resolution, no closure. Just body bags under the water and rhymes on the rocks. It's a messed up situation, because it proves the game has its own nightmares running whether you press start or not. And here's where it gets really uncomfortable. Merle thinks he was chosen. But what happens after you meet the people in GTV who literally tell you they have all the answers? In this video, I'm going to show you how the next mystery doesn't hide on rocks. It hides behind a smiling logo, blue robes, and a cult that might be connected to way more than it admits. Alright, if Merle is the creepy loner scribbling numbers on rocks, the Epsilon program is the smiling corporate version of the same madness. You know that weird radio ad and the website that keeps telling you Kiflam like it's a real religion? That's them. In GTA lore, they worship some entity called Craft, wear blue robes, obsess over red trucks, and promise you'll live to 157 as long as your bank account dies first. So here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is you, as Michael, can actually sign up on their in-game website. No big cutscene, no main story marker, just you filling out a fake personality quiz like it's BuzzFeed. After that, your inbox starts getting flooded. Emails, directions, donations you have to pay. It's this slow drip that pulls Michael into a full-blown questline that stretches all over Los Santos and Blaine County. They make you do everything. Jog in the desert in your underwear, steal specific high-end cars, wander around in those iconic blue robes while people on the street react like you're completely gone. You're driving special Epsilon vehicles, those light blue customized cars, from one side of the map to the other. And half the time you're wondering, what are we even doing right now? It's a messed up situation because the cult is dead serious, but the game keeps winking at you. Every meetup feels like a parody of real-world cults. You go out to these desert gatherings where everyone's in robes, standing around like they're waiting for a UFO that's running late. They talk about the tract, the divine truth, craft visiting Earth 157 times, and how red trucks are somehow spiritually important. Meanwhile, what happens after each new sermon? Another donation request. Another giant hit to Michael's wallet. They're not brainwashing you with sci-fi tech. They're just quietly draining your bank account while smiling. And here's the weird part. For all the comedy, they never really tell you what they believe. There's no clear doctrine, no final reveal where a leader explains the plan. You finish this long chain of fetch quests and ridiculous tasks. You can even choose to walk away with their money or stay loyal, and it still feels like nothing concrete got answered. It's like Rockstar wants the cult to sit in that uncanny space between joke and genuine mystery. Because buried in the satire, there are real unanswered questions. The in-game emails and the Epsilon website keep mentioning a missing track 9, but you never get it. Players dug through files, searched the map, nothing. Why write 9 tracks and only give us 8? Why do their symbols and phrases keep popping up near UFO and alien imagery, like Solomon's office sketches, or the whole Mount Chiliad mural vibe? In this video, I'm going to show you how Epsilon ends up acting like a hub that quietly connects the cults, the aliens, and the conspiracy nuts. And right after we cash out Michael's enlightenment, we're heading up the mountain to the biggest rabbit hole of all, Chiliad itself. Alright, before we hike up Chiliad and start staring at murals, we need to talk about one tiny missing piece of paper that drives people insane. Tract 9. So here's how it goes. All through the Epsilon website, the emails, the sermons in your inbox, they keep talking about these sacred texts, the tracks, numbered 1 through 9. The whole belief system is laid out like a checklist. You know, study track 5, complete track 7, all that. But when you actually play the missions with Michael, the first thing that happens is you can only ever get tracks 1 through 8. There is no track 9 in your inventory, no pickup, no reward screen. It just never shows up. At first, most players figured they just hadn't gone far enough. Maybe you had to donate more money, or walk the rope grind another 10 miles, or park the Epsilon car in some secret spot. After the cult finale where you either run with the money or hand it over, people expected one last email, one last GPS route. Something. Instead, nothing. The questline just hard cuts to silence, while the website is still out here preaching about a 9th track you never see. That's where the rabbit hole opens. People started tearing Los Santos apart trying to find it. Every Epsilon building, every bookshelf, every desktop in the Vinewood Hills. Players combed the desert around the camp, checked the ice-cold lake from the robe mission, even tried showing up at the Epsilon Center at weird times, like 3 a.m. rainstorms, just in case. And when that didn't work, the hunt went digital. Data miners dug through scripts, text files, cutscene lists, anything that even smelled like track 9. Nothing. No hidden pickup, no disabled trigger, no leftover model. It's a real low blow when the game keeps naming something and then just never hands it over. So what happens after years of coming up empty? Theories. A lot of people are convinced Track 9 was a late-cut mission. Maybe a final test where Michael goes to some remote location and actually sees a UFO, tying Epsilon straight into the Chiliad saucers. Others think it was supposed to be a hidden lore document, maybe connecting the cult to those alien sketches in Solomon's office or to the Fort Zancudo UFO. There's even the idea that Track 9 was meant as a special reward for doing everything pure, like giving up the money instead of stealing it. But Rockstar has never said a word about it. No confirmation it was cut, no wink that it's an enlightenment joke, nothing. So you're stuck asking, is this intentional? Like you never reached true Track 9 enlightenment? Or did the writers just forget to pull the references when they scrapped the mission? In this video, I'm going to show you how mysteries like this sit right on that line between clever design and happy accident, and Track 9 is the perfect example. Because once you start asking what else might be missing, that's when the Mount Chiliad mural stops looking like a joke and starts feeling like a blueprint we never got to finish. And speaking of blueprints, let's get started on the mountain that turned the whole map into a conspiracy board. And speaking of blueprints, let's get started on the one cult that actually treats the whole map like a flowchart, the Epsilon program. Have you ever finished Michael's Epsilon questline and thought, wait, that's it? Because what happens after you choose your ending is one of the strangest payoffs in the whole game. So here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is, if you play it as a true believer, you hand over that final 50 grand. No gunfight, no twist, just Michael in powder blue robes, walking out into the desert like he's about to ascend. You're following the convoy, you're hyped for some huge revelation, and then they just leave him. You get a rusty tractor, a few lines about enlightenment, and that's your grand reward. It's a real low blow, but it's kind of perfect for a scam cult that's been bleeding you for hundreds of thousands. You know what makes it worse? Michael doesn't even really react. He just stands there in his robes while the player is screaming at the screen. It's a messed up situation because the good faith ending is the one that feels the most like you got conned, which is exactly what Epsilon's been hinting at from the very first email. Alright, but then there's the other path. If you decide you're done being a mark, you can pull a gun at that final meetup and wipe out the Epsilon members. Suddenly the whole tone flips. Instead of fake enlightenment, you're chasing down guys in blue and scooping up duffel bags until you're sitting on $2 million. No tractor, no sermon, just a massive late game payday that turns the cult into one of the easiest money glitches that actually exist in the story. And here's the pattern interrupt. Even if you cash out, the cult doesn't really go away. You keep the robes, and those robes are like a portable Easter egg generator. Wear them around Los Santos and NPCs start saying weird stuff. People recognize you as one of them. Cars will stop. Random pedestrians talk about Epsilon. And you can trigger rare encounters that almost never show up otherwise. Different robe variants make it feel like there are ranks. Like you're walking around in a uniform that half the city secretly understands. What happens after you finish the questline is even creepier. Epsilon emails keep coming. Radio shows still reference them. The website is still live. It feels like even if Michael walked away with the tractor or the 2 million, they're still watching, still recruiting, still running the program in the background. And when you listen to what they talk about, it tilts straight into the bigger conspiracy board. They drop lines about higher beings, other planes, and those who visit from above. Put that next to the Mount Chiliad mural, the UFOs over Zancudo and Chiliad. and suddenly this goofy cult is echoing the same language as the actual aliens you can see in-game. So was Epsilon just a satire? Or were they low-key warning us about what's parked on top of the mountain at 3 a.m.? To answer that, we need to go back to where the saucers actually show up. So if the saucers are real, where does the trail actually start? It starts on a wall that most players ran past without even looking. You ride the cable car up to Mount Chiliad, walk into that little concrete station at the top, and on the far wall there it is, the mural. A triangle mountain, thick black lines branching down like a circuit board, weird little squares, lightning bolts, UFO icons, and at the very peak this odd shape that looks kind of like a jetpack or an egg. The first time you see it, you might think, alright, Rockstar just dropped a goofy Easter egg. But the more you stare at it, the less it feels like a joke. It's painted inside the highest building on the highest point of the map. It's using red, green, and white symbols that don't match any normal in-game UI. And those UFO drawings, they match the exact style of the Fort Zancudo and Chiliad saucers people later found at 3 a.m. in thunderstorms. At some point you stop laughing and start asking, okay, what is this trying to tell me? So here's how it goes. The basic community interpretation kicked in pretty fast, and in this video I'm going to show you how deep that rabbit hole actually went. The first thing that happens is someone notices the 3 boxes at the bottom of the mural. One has an X, one has a question mark, one has a UFO. Players decide those must be paths or conditions. Then they line that up with the branching lines on the mountain, the lightning bolts, the strange shapes. Suddenly it's not just a drawing, it's a checklist. People start saying the mural is telling you how to trigger something on Chiliad. Get 100% completion, wait for a storm, be up here at 3 a.m., maybe stand in a specific spot, or wear the Epsilon robes. What happens after you do all that? Do you get a jetpack? Do you hatch an alien egg? Does a hidden mission start? No one knows, and that's exactly why it exploded. Within months, you had full subreddits and wikis where players mapped every single glyph like they were decoding the Zodiac Killer. Folks were taking screenshots of the mural, overlaying them on the in-game map, even comparing it to real-world conspiracy art and crop circles. There were discords where people would call out live weather patterns in GTA Online just to rush a lobby up to Chiliad together. It's a messed up situation when a doodle on a wall has more patch notes than some DLC. And unlike a lot of fake legends, this one actually pays off a little. If you hit 100% and come back to Chiliad at 3 a.m. in a thunderstorm, a UFO really does appear above the mountain, frozen in place with fibs stamped on the side. Hit Fort Zancudo under similar conditions and there's another saucer, plus the crashed one underwater. So was the mural solved? Or did we just unlock phase 1 of something bigger? Alright, keep that question in mind, because the next mystery people chased was the so-called jetpack and the egg at the top of the mountain. Alright, so if that Fort Zancudo saucer was phase 1, the big question is, how do you actually trigger the Mount Chiliad UFO on purpose? Without mods, without myths, just using what's in the game. In this video I'm going to show you the exact checklist, because if you miss even one thing, you can sit on that mountain all night and nothing will happen. So here's how it goes. First, you need 100% completion. Not most missions, not I did the story and some strangers. The game has to say 100% on the stats screen. That means every main mission. Strangers and freaks, hobbies, random events, all of it. The first thing that happens after you hit that perfect save file is the game quietly flips a switch in the background. From that point on, the Chiliad event even has a chance to exist. But you're not done. You then have to come back to Mount Chiliad at exactly 3 am in game. Not 2:59, not 3:15. People literally sit there watching the phone clock tick. On top of that, it has to be during a thunderstorm. So if the weather's clear, you either wait it out or force it with cheats in a separate save. Finally, you have to stand on that exact wooden platform near the mural, right at the cable car station on the summit. If you're wandering around the rocks like a tourist, nothing. The game is super picky. When you line it all up though, the payoff is insane. The second the clock hits 3:00 in a storm, the rain is hammering down, lightning is going off, and then you look up. Hanging over the peak is this glowing disc-shaped craft, just locked in place above the mountain. No engine sound, no dramatic entrance, it's just there, humming visually with these weird pulsing lights and panels. If you zoom in, you can see strange symbols and markings on the hull that match the iconography from the mural, and even stuff you've seen in Solomon Richards' office. It's like the mural literally came to life. But here's the messed up part. When you try to reach it, it's a ghost. Fly a helicopter or a jet straight into it, and you'll just clip right through, or it'll blink out the second you get too close. No explosion, no collision, nothing. It feels less like a ship and more like a hologram projected into the storm. And that ties it back into the other UFOs. The Chiliad saucer shares design details with the underwater craft off the coast and the Fort Zancudo UFO, with fib stamped on the side. Same style of plates, same central dome, same pattern of lights. It really looks like Rockstar wanted you to see all three as one connected system, not random Easter eggs. So why go this far? Why hide a 100% only 3am, thunderstorm locked, intangible UFO that you can't even properly touch if there isn't a bigger narrative or a giant joke running underneath it? Because once you've seen this one, you start asking, where are the others? And what are we actually unlocking? Keep that in mind, because the next locations push things from weird into straight up conspiracy. Alright, so here's where that question really kicks in. If Chiliad is already that picky about who gets to see its UFO, what happens after you take that same logic over to Fort Zancudo? Because this one doesn't just sit over a mountain. It parks itself right above the most locked down airspace in the entire game. So here's how it goes. You head out to Fort Zancudo, again at exactly 3am, and again you're usually looking for stormy weather. Thunder, heavy clouds, the kind of sky that already makes you feel like you shouldn't be flying. You pull up near the base, wait for that clock to tick over, and if you're in the right spot, suddenly there it is, hovering above the restricted zone like it owns the place. No marker, no mission, just this silent threat hanging over the military. The first thing that happens is you notice it doesn't look like the Chiliad saucer at all. This one is darker, almost black, with that stealth bomber vibe, and it's got these glowing patterns running along the hull. It's like someone took the classic UFO shape and tried to weaponize it. Same basic silhouette, totally different attitude. That alone makes it feel like we're not just dealing with one alien craft model. We might be looking at different factions, or at least different roles in whatever's going on. Now naturally you try to fly up to it, right? You grab a jet, a helicopter, maybe you even parachute from a higher altitude thinking you'll finally land on top of it. And every time, it just refuses to play along. If you get too close, it blinks out, or it becomes this weird intangible object your jet clips through, and the base goes on full red alert. SAM sights lock on, jets scramble, spotlights go crazy. It's like the game is saying, you can see this, but you are not allowed to actually touch it. It's a messed up situation. And then Rockstar does that thing where they quietly tie it into the rest of the world. If you've ever poked around Solomon Richards' office, you can find a hidden UFO drawing that matches the Fort Zancudo saucer almost perfectly. Same black disc, same underside patterns. So the movie producer, the guy who makes sci-fi for a living, just happens to have concept art that lines up with a top secret craft over a real military base? That's a real low blow to anyone who still thinks this is all just random decoration. Look, in this video I'm going to show you that GTV's aliens aren't really about jump scares. They're more like a background operating system for the map. Little hints in the sky, in an office, over a base, that never get a cutscene or a big explanation. And once you accept that, you start wondering, if the military has a saucer and Hollywood has the blueprint, who else is in on it? Keep that in mind, because the next location feels less like a cameo and more like a full-in cover-up. So if Zancudo is the "you're not supposed to be here" UFO, what happens when you go somewhere Rockstar never points you to at all? Off the northern coast, past Mount Chiliad, you've got this empty-looking stretch of ocean. But if you keep flying out, then dive straight down, you hit something that absolutely should not be there. Alright, picture this. You're in a sub or in scuba gear. The light starts to fade. The water goes dark blue. And then suddenly the seabed opens up and there it is. A full saucer. Not a texture. Not a rock that kind of looks like a UFO if you squint. A real, solid craft, resting flat on the sand. It's covered in algae, barnacles, rust stains, like it's been sitting there for decades, while the rest of the map just built up around it. The first thing that happens is your brain expects something to trigger. In this video, I'm going to show you one of the strangest non-events in GTA V. Because this thing is fully modeled. You've got that glowing center ring pulsing softly, weird markings along the hull. The same design language as the Chiliad and Zancudo saucers. It feels like if you just nudge it or shoot it or land on top, some secret mission should start. But nothing. No prompt, no cutscene, no voice line. You can swim circles around it for 10 minutes, and the game just acts like it's a rock. So here's how it goes in the bigger timeline. Roll back to the very first mission, the North Yankton prologue. Michael and Trevor drive over that frozen river, and under the ice you can spot a dead alien, half embedded in the sheet. Same style as the crashed UFOs, same big head, same long limbs. That's years before the main story, and yet the body is already there, frozen like evidence somebody tried to hide. What happens after you connect that to the sunken saucer? Suddenly it feels like aliens have been in GTA's version of Earth for a long time. And we just walked in on the aftermath. Then data meters jump in and make it worse. People start finding alien egg models in the files, weird textures, and even props that look like incubation pods in certain interiors. You know those moments where you see an unused texture and think, alright, that was going to be something? This is like that on steroids. The community went wild with theories about a scrapped alien heist, a DLC where you steal an egg, or a mission that ties the prologue body, the Chiliad mural, and this underwater saucer into one big reveal. It's a messed up situation, because the assets are real, the locations are real, but the payoff never shows up. Was this all cut content that got left behind? Or was it planted on purpose to keep the rabbit hole bottomless? Rockstar never says. And once you accept that, you start looking at every weird prop and asking, is this a clue or just the ghost of a mission we'll never get? Keep that question ready, because the next mystery feels even more like someone ripped the last page out of the script. So once people hit that mural and realize parts of the game were missing or cut, the next question was obvious. If some stuff got deleted, did Rockstar also hide something even bigger? And this is where the jetpack theory basically hijacks the entire Mount Chiliad mystery. Alright, look at that mural again in your head. You've got UFOs, you've got the egg, you've got the lightning. But that one little stick figure with lines coming off it? The community locked onto that and went, "That's a jetpack. Not a parachute, not some random doodle. A full-on San Andreas-style jetpack waiting to be unlocked." And once that idea got in, it never left. So here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is people try the obvious stuff. Beat the game 100%, go to Mount Chiliad during a storm at 3 a.m., stand on the glyphs, switch characters, wait for lightning. When that doesn't spawn a jetpack, it doesn't kill the theory, it mutates it. Suddenly you needed the right character, the right weather, the right ending, the right everything. Franklin only, option C only, rain only. If you could name a condition, someone swore it was the secret trigger. After that, the hunt just explodes. You get spreadsheets, Discord servers, forums with people logging every test like it's a science experiment. Players fly specific helicopter routes around the mountain, following the mural paths. People try climbing Chiliad with the Epsilon robes on. You've got folks landing the UFO from Fort Zancudo in mods, just to see what should happen. It's a messed up situation, where the community basically starts doing QA on a puzzle that might not even exist. Then the data miners show up. They tear through scripts, textures, mission files, looking for any line that says jetpack. When they find nothing in story mode, that just makes the legend stronger, because now it's like, maybe Rockstar hit it server side, maybe it's an event, maybe it's Dilk that never dropped. You know that moment when you've looked too long at something and your brain starts seeing patterns that aren't there? That was the Chiliad subreddit for about 3 years. And then Rockstar does something wild. In Jita Online's Doomsday Heist, they literally added jetpack, not just anywhere, but inside a high-tech facility built into Mount Chiliad. Suddenly the thing people imagined is real, on the exact same mountain they've been tearing apart since 2013. For a lot of players, that felt like confirmation. Like, see, we were right the whole time. They finally flipped the switch. But there's another way to read it, and honestly, I kind of lean this way. What if the original mural was always a joke about people like us? A meta meme about conspiracy theorists who connect every dot, see UFOs, eggs, lightning, and a little stick guy and instantly scream jetpack. And the online jetpack? That might be Rockstar just winking at the obsession, saying, "Fine, you want a jetpack on Chiliad? Here you go." So what happens after you accept that possibility? The mystery flips. Instead of asking how to solve Chiliad, you start asking whether it was ever meant to be solved at all. Was there really a planned second phase hidden in the files? Or was the solution always supposed to live in the community's theories and arguments? I want you to tell me in the comments, do you think we missed the real trigger? Or was the whole point that there isn't one? Alright, while everyone's staring at murals and UFOs, Rockstar quietly hid one of the biggest mysteries in GTA V in the most boring place possible: the stock market. Have you ever just done Lester's assassination missions as soon as they popped up and thought, cool, easy cash, and then moved on? Yeah, the game kind of lets you do that, but that's not how it was really designed. So here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is Lester starts calling Franklin with those work for the good of the economy hits. Most players just accept, drive to the yellow marker, and never think about it again. But buried under that is a full-on financial exploit the game wants you to figure out without ever spelling it out. It's a messed up situation, because the optimal way to play actually feels wrong. You're supposed to ignore Lester for hours. Look, in this video I'm going to show you the secret the community eventually pieced together. You're meant to save almost all of Lester's assassination missions until after the final heist, when all 3 characters are sitting on millions. Only the very first one, the hotel assassination, is forced. Everything after that, you can delay it. And if you do, suddenly those small percentage gains turn into absurd money, because you're investing way more. Each hit directly manipulates specific stocks. Lester literally tells you who's getting crushed and who's going to benefit, but he says it like flavored dialogue, so you tune it out. Debonair versus Redwood, Bilkington versus Beta, Facade versus Fruit, Vapid on Bossack. You're supposed to take that info, dump every dollar from Michael Franklin and Trevor into the right company, do the mission, then watch the line on the graph spike like you just discovered Insider Trading 101. Quick example, because this is the one that made people go, wait, what? Before the hotel assassination, you put everything into Debonair on LCN. You do the mission, the target dies. Debonair shoots up over the next in-game days. You sell at the peak, then immediately flip all that profit into Redwood, the rival cigarette company that just got wrecked. After a while, Redwood rebounds hard, and you cash out again. One simple hit, 2 profit waves. If you do that post-ending, you're not making a few $100,000. You're turning story money into I can buy the entire map money. The wild part is Rockstar never gives you a proper tutorial for this. No pop-up, no checklist, just a couple of throwaway lines from Lester and a stock app most people open once. What happens after the community starts testing it, posting numbers, timing peaks, is that this boring menu suddenly becomes one of GTAV's biggest puzzles. And that's the pattern I want you to notice. Rockstar hides systems like this in plain sight, rewarding you for treating Los Santos like a mystery board instead of just a shooting gallery. Because if they did this with money, what else did they bury in the mechanics that we barely touch? So if Rockstar can hide a whole stock market exploit in the background, what happens when they start hiding people? Not icons, not missions, actual human nightmares, just wandering around the map, waiting for you to slip up. Alright, the first thing that happens is you realize Los Santos has its own urban legends built into the traffic system. You're just cruising, maybe farming, random events, and you see one of those blue dots on the highway. Hitchhiker. Easy money, right? But you pick up the wrong one. And suddenly the GPS isn't taking you home. It's dragging you out into the desert. The guy in the back starts talking about the brotherhood, or a great purpose. And before you know it, you've driven straight into a cult ambush, or a full-on execution party. It's a messed up situation because from your side it was just, hey, free cab fare. The game never tells you which hitchhiker is safe and which one is going to sell you out. Sometimes it's a scammer who wants the Los Santos tour. Sometimes it's a crew waiting to rob you. Sometimes it's the altruist camp literally lining up with rifles. And if you only see that once in 300 hours, it hits like a real horror story. You start asking yourself, do I even stop for people anymore? Or do I just keep driving? Then you've got the stalkers. Not scripted stalkers, just whatever the AI is doing at 2 a.m. You know those pedestrians who don't despawn? They just kind of shadow you for whole blocks. You turn a corner, they turn a corner. You cross the street, they cross the street. Sometimes you'll park in an alley, and there's a guy just standing there, watching, not talking, not running, just locked on you. Is it a bug? Is it pathfinding? Or did someone at Rockstar sit there and say, yeah, let's make one random NPC behave like a serial killer today? And that's where the ghost hitchhiker myths come in. I've seen so many people swear they picked up a passenger, started driving, and the seat just went empty mid-ride. No death sound, no door animation, nothing. 1 second they're complaining about the radio, the next second they're gone. There's no confirmed script for that, no official Phantom Rider event, but when it happens once on a late night drive, your brain doesn't care if it's a glitch or a feature. You just added your own creepypasta to the game. So here's how it goes. Because Rockstar's ambient event system is so dense, Even a boring freeway run can flip into a story, a wrong hitchhiker, a weird pedestrian, a car that seems to follow you for 10 miles, and suddenly you're acting like you're in a true crime documentary instead of a sandbox. And when something only happens once, it becomes your personal mystery, something you can't even fully prove to your friends. But here's the thing, if the random world can feel this haunted, what about the stuff that isn't random at all? The interiors you can't normally enter, the missions that exist in the files but almost never trigger, the locations that look built for a purpose you never see. In this video, I'm going to show you how deep that rabbit hole goes, starting with a building you've probably driven past 1,000 times without realizing it's hiding content you were never meant to use. That building is the Fib Tower. You blow it up, rappel down it, sneak through it in the story. But have you ever noticed what happens after? In free roam, it just turns into a dead shell. Doors that used to work are suddenly welded shut, like the game is telling you, yeah, you saw too much already. Alright, so here's how it goes. During the Fib missions, you walk through fully modeled lobbies, security checkpoints, office floors with cubicles, meeting rooms, even little break areas with vending machines and coffee cups. It feels like a real place, but once the mission ends, those same doors are locked forever. You can't just stroll in as Michael in a suit and pretend you work there. You're stuck outside, staring at glass that hides an entire level you know is back there. Humane Labs is the same kind of thing, but creepier. You raid it at night in the heist. You swim in through that underwater tunnel, and there are these long sterile hallways, labs with computers, mysterious containers, all that buzzing fluorescent light. It feels like there should be multiple missions in there, right? Maybe one where you sneak in as a janitor, one where Merryweather hits back. Instead, after the heist, it's just locked. From the outside, it's this big fortress on the coast that might as well be a matte painting. So the first thing that happens is the community refuses to accept that. Players start glitching in. Single player, no mods, just abusing jobs, replay menus, or that old trick where you use a mission marker to force a teleport. Suddenly you're back inside the Fib, or deep in Humane Labs, but there's no objective, no enemies, no timer. It's like visiting a theme park after closing. The rides are still there, but the life is gone. And it's not just the big government buildings. There are random apartments with full furniture and working doors that only ever appear in one cutscene. A lawyer's office downtown that you see once during a mission, then never again. Even some clothing shops and bars have back rooms that are modeled, lit, and then completely ignored in normal gameplay. You know Rockstar didn't throw that detail in for nothing. It feels like we're walking through the skeleton of a bigger game. That's where the cut content theories kick in. People dig into the files, find leftover scripts for alternate heist approaches or scrapped side jobs, and suddenly those locked interiors start to look like crime scenes. Was there supposed to be a second Fib raid? An expanded Humane Labs arc tied to the UFOs? Maybe an extra safe house system using those unused apartments? If they cut it late in development to ship on time, the map still remembers, even if the script doesn't. It's a messed up situation, because once you see it, Los Santos feels haunted in a new way, not just by ghosts and killers, but by missions that never happened. And if the buildings are hiding that much, what about the places that aren't even on the map yet? The doors that only open at 3 a.m. for one specific event? And if the buildings are hiding that much, what about the stuff you don't even see on screen? You just hear in the background. What happens after you stop looking at the map and actually listen to Los Santos? Alright, so here's how it goes. Ita V basically has a second layer of conspiracy that lives inside the radio. The first thing that happens is you hop in a car, turn on a station, and it just sounds like jokes, music, and dumb ads. But if you actually pay attention, those fake commercials and talk segments start lining up with all the weird things you've been seeing in the world. It's like the city is talking about its own secrets when you're not looking. You'll hear talk show hosts casually mention the Epsilon program like it's just another self-help scam, but then they drop lines about tracks that don't exist in the game or followers disappearing in the desert. That matches the Epsilon quest line you can do, but it also hints at stuff you never get to see, like this missing tract 9 people have been hunting for years. Other segments bring up strange lights over Mount Chiliad, callers saying they saw metal discs in thunderstorms, which is exactly how the Fort Zancudo and Chiliad UFOs actually spawn. The radio is low-key confirming the UFO sightings, while also making fun of you for believing them. Then you've got the really dark ones. Some news blurbs and true crime style bits talk about missing hikers, or a serial killer who left bodies in numbered locations out in Blaine County. They never say Infinity Killer out loud, but if you found Merle Abraham's notes and the body bags on the seabed, you realize the radio is basically reporting on that case in the background. The game never gives you a proper mission to catch him, but the airwaves won't shut up about his victims. It's a messed up situation, because you're driving to a heist while the city casually recaps an unsolved murder spree you half solved on your own. And it's not just what you hear, it's what you can dial. Look around at billboards, taxis, random company vans. A ton of those phone numbers actually work. You punch them into your in-game phone expecting nothing, and suddenly you get a weird voicemail, a busy signal with creepy echoes, or some automated line that sounds like it's glitching out. Other numbers are just dead, and that almost makes it worse. Where they cut hooks for an ARG, future DLC, or just Rockstar trolling everybody. You know players tried every single one. In this video, I'm going to show you how that turns the audio into its own puzzle. Some of these numbers and references loop back into known mysteries. Some go nowhere, and some feel like they're staring at content that never shipped. It's a real low blow, because once you realize the radios and phones are part of the rabbit hole, you start wondering what else is talking to you when you're not really listening, like the NPCs, or even the TV shows playing in your safe house. So if the phones and radios are already talking to you in ways you didn't notice, the next question people asked was kind of wild. What if the sky is talking too? Like, what happens after you start staring at the clouds in GTA V at 3 in the morning and treating them like a conspiracy subreddit? Alright, the first thing that happens is people start screenshotting everything. Players began posting these grainy sky pictures, saying they saw UFO shapes, faces, even symbols that looked exactly like the Mount Chiliad mural or Epsilon icons. You'll see a cloud that's kind of like the eye from the Epsilon logo, or a shape that lines up with the jetpack drawing, and suddenly the comments are full of Rockstar confirmed and red arrows. In this video, I'm going to show you how fast that rabbit hole gets deep. Because, look, V2V's sky isn't hand-painted frame by frame. The game uses procedural skyboxes and repeating cloud textures that slide and blend over time. That means your brain is getting this endless, shifting Rorschach test. And our brains love patterns. You stare long enough, you're going to see a saucer hovering over Fort Zancudo, or a face watching you from above Mount Gordo, even if it's just 2 cloud blobs and a shadow. So here's how it goes. Once people knew about real UFOs in the game, the sky became suspect. You've got the Chiliad saucer, the Fort Zancudo storm UFO, the one out at sea, and suddenly every weird cloud is secret number 4. Some players even tried lining up the mural with the skyline, saying certain shapes only appear if you stand on specific rocks at certain times. Half the time it's just pareidolia, that thing where your brain sees meaning in random shapes, like seeing animals in real clouds. But to be fair, Rockstar doesn't make it easy to stay skeptical. There are a few details that feel a little too on the nose. Contrails from jets will sometimes crisscross right over Chiliad or Zancudo, and if you're already in mystery mode, it looks like arrows pointing at the saucers. During thunderstorms, you can get that one lightning flash that hits while a UFO is visible, lighting it up like a jump scare. When that happens once, it's random. When someone records it and posts it with creepy music, it turns into evidence. That's the tension right there. Intentional design versus our pattern-hungry brains. Rockstar knows players will overanalyze everything, and sometimes they lean into it by putting just enough suggestive detail to keep you guessing. A cloud that almost matches a glyph. A contrail that lines up with an epsilon symbol. A storm that rolls in right as you reach the mural. It's a messed up situation, because you never know if you just caught a clever little wink or you're arguing with the weather system. But if you really want to separate the trolling from the truth, you have to get out of the sky and into the files. The real smoking guns aren't in the clouds. They're in cut missions, unused dialogue, and leftover scripts that flat out mention events we never get to play. And when you see what's hiding there, it makes the sky stuff feel almost tame. Because the next mysteries aren't just shapes, they're entire storylines that were erased. Alright, so if the sky is the conspiracy theory, the files are like the deleted scenes. And this is where things get real weird, real fast. Because once you start digging into GTA V's leftovers, you realize there are missions, characters, and whole setups that were planned, and then just quietly erased. Data miners and modders have been peeling this game apart for years, and the first thing that happens is they keep finding names and triggers for missions you never see. You'll see internal codenames like Omega 2 suggesting a second arc for the UFO nut, or extra fib operations with objective markers that tell you to infiltrate places you never actually break into in story mode. There are mission scripts that reference alternate heist approaches, extra getaway locations, even backup dialogue for when a character you can't kill in the final game dies. Look, you know how in this video I'm going to show you how every mystery links into something else? The cut content is like the missing subtitles. People have found unused audio where Lester talks about another run with the fib, extra lines for Dave Norton that hint at a bigger cover-up, and strayed dialogue for side characters like Ron and Wade reacting to events that never trigger. It's a messed up situation because it feels like you're hearing ghosts of a version of the story we never got. One of the creepiest parts is how some of this abandoned stuff lines up with existing mysteries. With the Infinity Killer, for example, we only get notes, body bags, and a name. But in the files, there are hints of extra blips and mission logic that look like they were building toward a proper confrontation or at least a final discovery. Same thing with the Epsilon program. The game keeps talking about Track 9, but you never receive it. Yet players have dug up references to additional Epsilon tasks and even unused lines from Chris Formage, like the quote was supposed to go one step further and actually explain something, or make it even more confusing. So here's how it goes. Game development is messy. Stuff gets cut for time, for budget, or just because it didn't fit anymore. Not every unused line is part of a grandmaster plan, and sometimes a weird interior or leftover marker is literally just an old test. But when a cut fib mission points at Fort Zancudo, and we already have a hidden UFO there at 3 a.m. in a thunderstorm, are you really not going to connect those dots? What happens after you notice that? You start seeing patterns everywhere. Scrapped interiors buried under Mount Chiliad. Beta mission routes that lead right past cult compounds. Half-finished scripts that name locations tied to our biggest urban legends. And that's exactly where we're heading next. Into the beta missions and locked-off spaces that might be hiding under Chiliad, inside Fort Zancudo, and in a few places Rockstar really doesn't want you wandering around. Alright, so here's where the rabbit hole really starts to feel like we're looking at an alternate version of GTA V that almost existed. We've talked about beta routes and locked doors, but what happens after you actually dig into the files tied to Mount Chiliad and Fort Zancudo is kind of wild. First, Chiliad. The first thing that happens when you look at early script names and dev comments is you keep seeing references to interior markers and mountain base style setups that you never actually use in story mode. It's like the game is quietly asking, hey, do you want to load a bunker up here? And then immediately backing out. Modders have found leftover coordinates, test triggers, even pathing that runs NPCs into spaces that don't exist anymore. You know that feeling when you walk into the cable car station and think, there should be more here? The files kind of agree with you. There are also oddities like unused door props flagged for the Chiliad area, and interior lighting templates that match labs and bunkers more than tourist cabins. It really feels like at some point, Chiliad wasn't just a mural and a cable car. It was a location. A place you'd actually infiltrate, maybe tied to a research facility way before the Doomsday heist ever showed up in online. Then you slide over to Fort Zancudo, and it gets even stranger. Inside the game files, people have pulled out unused props and textures that never show up in the single-player campaign. Extra lab equipment, more detailed examination tables, alien-style containers, and warning decals for biohazard areas that you never see during the one stealth mission or your usual 5-star joyrides. It's a messed up situation. The base looks like it was built to host a full mission chain, and instead you just kind of sprint through it once and leave. Combine that with the UFO that spawns over Zancudo at 3 AM during a thunderstorm, and the alien bodies you see on the prologue mission and in that hidden ice block, and players did what players always do. They connected the dots. Suddenly you've got a full community theory that in this video I'm going to show you would sound totally believable. A scrapped single-player Delk focused on aliens, Chiliad, and the military, using those bunkers, those labs, and those props as the main stage. So here's how it goes in the theory. Chiliad hides the research or the artifact. Zancudo hides the hardware and the cover-up. Solomon's UFO drawing, the underwater saucer, the mural, the alien egg textures people swear they've seen in the files, all of it was meant to pay off in one massive expansion. It sounds great. It also never happened. Rockstar has never confirmed a single-player alien Dilk. No title, no art, nothing. But the combo of UFOs, alien props, and these half-finished mission hooks keeps the rumor alive. And this is where we pivot back from what might have been to what actually is. The 100% verifiable, reproducible mysteries you can still trigger today. Because if this is what the cut content looks like, wait until you see the stuff that made it into the game. Alright, so if the alien stuff felt like cut missions hiding in plain sight, the Infinity Killer is that same idea turned into a full-on true crime podcast. Have you ever followed all the Merle Abraham's clues and thought, wait, that's it? So here's how it goes. In the final game, you get the creepy letters on the walls, the newspaper clipping about Merle dying in prison, and the 8 body bags at the bottom of the Alamo Sea. You piece it together yourself, you feel smart for a second, and then nothing. No mission complete, no detective fanfare, no achievement pop up. But when people dug into the files, they found unused police scanner lines and dialogue strings that sound like they were meant for a real investigation. Cops mentioning Infinity murders, chatter about Abraham's dump site, even references to additional remains recovered, stuff you never hear in normal gameplay. The first thing that happens is your brain goes, okay, so who was supposed to say this? Because there are also leftover mission markers and scenario setups tied to Merle's house and the desert. They never trigger. It's like the skeleton of a side quest is still wired into the map, but the meat got ripped off late in development. That's where the big theory comes in. A lot of players think there was once a full-side mission where Franklin or Michael would actually team up with the LSPD or amphib contact. You'd get a call after finding a certain clue, drive out to the lake with the forensics team, maybe help mark the bodies, and officially close the Infinity case. You know, proper title card, mission music, maybe a dark little cutscene about how justice came too late. It writes itself. Instead, what happens after you solve it now is nothing. You just swim back to shore. It's a messed up situation in a really quiet way. All that buildup and the world shrugs. It kind of feels like you walked into the middle of a cutscene that never finished rendering. But here's the pattern interrupt. What if that's on purpose? Rockstar loves that real life is messy vibe. In reality, most serial killers don't get a cinematic arrest. Cases go cold. Evidence sits in boxes. Some detective retires still wondering. Leaving Merle as this half-finished story you solve in your head makes Los Santos feel less like a theme park and more like a place that was already haunted before you showed up. And that's why this one sits right on that edge between intentional design and unfinished idea. The unused dialogue and markers scream cut content, but the eerie non-ending feels deliberate. In this video, I'm going to show you that almost every great GTA mystery lives in that same gray zone. And the deeper we go, the harder it gets to tell what was planned and what we just weren't meant to see, which leads straight into the next case. And if that gray zone between designed and unfinished wasn't weird enough, Mount Gordo takes it to a whole different level. Because what if that ghost on the cliff isn't just a horror Easter egg? What if it's a political ad that the game world refuses to air? Alright, let's get started with what you actually see. You hike up to Mount Gordo between 2300 and 0000. The fog rolls in, and Jolene Cranley Evans appears in that white dress. If you move too close, she vanishes, and all that's left is the blood on the rock. Jock. The first thing that happens is you connect that to all the Jock Cranley billboards you've been driving past for hours. Vote Cranley for governor. More prisons, less hospitals. It's like the mountain itself is running an attack campaign. So here's how it goes in the rest of the game. On the radio, Jock is this washed-up stuntman turned politician. He gives these interviews where callers bring up his wife's accident and he just laughs it off, denies everything, pivots to crime, taxes, whatever. You know he's full of it because you've literally seen his dead wife haunting the place where she died, spelling his name in blood. It's a messed up situation. The ghost is telling the truth, the candidate is lying, and the city just keeps plastering his face on every freeway. What happens after that is kind of on you. The game never forces a confrontation. No mission where a reporter hands Michael some photos. No late night call where Franklin is asked to dig into Cranley's past. You still get the option to support Jock in the election like nothing ever happened. Do you vote for the guy, knowing he probably murdered his wife? Do you just shrug and say, well, he'll lower my taxes? This is where Kata's satire and its mystery really fuse together. On one side, you've got a straight-up ghost story, specific time window, creepy atmosphere, supernatural proof. On the other side, the system inside the game doesn't care. The talk shows keep booking him, the billboards stay up, and there's no justice meter that ticks up just because you saw Jolene. The world of Los Santos just does what real systems do. It elevates the guy with money, fame, and a good PR team. The haunting is real, but the cover-up is stronger. And that raises a big question. Was there ever supposed to be more? It feels like there should have been a mission where Michael, with his Vinewood connections, helps a documentary crew expose Cranley. Or Franklin gets hired to dig up police records in Blaine County. Imagine actually confronting Jock with photos of the cliff. Or Jolene's ghost triggering a unique cutscene. In this video, I'm going to show you how many of these mysteries feel like that. one step away from a full story arc. Because once you notice that, Mount Gordo stops being an isolated campfire tale and starts looking like a theme. Power, corruption, and what gets buried in Los Santos. Sometimes it's a body. Sometimes it's a scandal. Sometimes it's an entire quest line. And just when you think that's as dark as it gets, you run into a case where the bodies are confirmed. The killer is named. And you still never really get to catch him. So once you realize Los Santos is full of bodies the game never really lets you bury, something else starts to feel off. Why does it sometimes feel like the city knows who you are? Not just you're a wanted star criminal, but you, specifically, with your history and your outfit and the last crime you pulled. Alright, think about those moments where you're just walking as Franklin after a big heist, and some random guy on the sidewalk goes, "Hey, I seen you on the news." Or you roll past in that ugly green jacket and a pedestrian throws shade on your clothes like they've been watching your whole playthrough. It's not just nice car or watch it, idiot. It's comments about robberies, about that thing at the jewelry store, about how you look like money now. It hits so on point that you pause for a second and go, wait, was that scripted for me? Then you get the really weird lines. You're out in Blaine County at night, doing nothing special, and some drunk local mutters about lights over Chiliad, or them Epsilon freaks calling the sky people. In the city, you'll hear a guy on his phone ranting about a cult in the desert that takes your car and your clothes. Every once in a while, someone straight up mentions UFOs or ghosts, or says they heard about a woman that appears on a rock and vanishes at midnight. You can play hundreds of hours and never hear that exact line again. So was it a hint? A glitch? Or did you just stumble into one of those own in 1,000 ambient dialogues the game quietly hides? So here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is you start noticing patterns that might not actually be patterns. An NPC crosses the street when you do. Another one sits at the next booth in a diner, finishes their food when you stand up, and then coincidentally walks out behind you. You get in your car, drive 3 blocks, look back, and swear the same model, same outfit, same face is still behind you. You park outside Franklin's aunt's house or Michael's place, and there's that one guy just standing there, not attacking, not talking, just watching. It's a messed up situation when a background pedestrian starts feeling like an undercover fib agent. Rockstar's AI is built exactly to create that feeling. They call it emergent behavior. Simple rules layered together so it looks like people have lives. NPCs choose routes, react to crimes, comment on nearby events, and sometimes all those systems stack in a way that tells a story. And when that story lines up with a ghost rumor, or a Chiliad theory, or the Epsilon program, you know it's going to get folded into the rabbit hole. Players clip it, upload it, and suddenly, that one time an NPC followed me for 10 minutes becomes proof of a secret agent system. In this video, I'm going to show you how that exact process turned a bunch of one-off lines, rare spawns, and AI quirks into over 100 mysteries. So after we look at the world behaving like it's alive, the next step is to pull back, lay everything on the table, and sort it. Which ones are actually solved? Which ones are still unexplained? And which ones might just be Rockstar trolling the entire community? Because once you see the full list side by side, one pattern jumps out that almost nobody talks about, and it changes how you read every single clue you've seen so far. Alright, so here's where we actually start counting them down. Mysteries 1 through 10 are the part of the list where GTA V quietly stops being a crime comedy and starts feeling like a low-key horror game. If you've ever played alone at night with headphones on and suddenly felt like the map was watching you, this is why. Mystery 1 is the Mount Gordo ghost. You hike up there around 23:00 in-game. The wind's howling. And the first thing that happens is you see that white figure on the cliff. Get too close and she vanishes, leaving Jock written in blood on the rock. This one is fully documented. We know the exact spawn window, we know it's Jolene Cranley Evans, and you can trigger her over and over. There's no mission after, no jump scare cutscene, but the tone shift is brutal. It's like the game suddenly goes, yeah, we do ghosts now. Mystery 2 is the Infinity Killer. You read Merle Abraham's notes, you find the creepy paintings, and eventually you get those underwater body bags off the coast. Rockstar confirmed it in the files, but you never get a proper case to close. So this one is only partially explained. The clues are real. The killer is real. The victims are real. But what happens after you find them? Nothing. No closure. It's a messed up situation and it makes the whole ocean feel cursed. Mystery 3 is those same underwater body bags as their own thing. Even if you never read a single note, you can just be out diving and suddenly there's a pile of wrapped corpses on the seabed with no context. Mechanically, they just sit there, but they turn the water from fun place to fly a sub into do I really want to be down here at 2 a.m.? This one is fully documented in terms of location, but emotionally it feels way bigger than the simple explanation. Mystery 4 is the rumored ghost hitchhikers. People swear they've seen pale NPCs on the side of the road that vanish when you look back, or passengers that never show up in replayed footage. Here, we're deep in anecdotal territory. No consistent triggers, no confirmed spawn tables, just clips, stories, and that feeling when you drive through the Chiliad woods and don't want to stop. Mystery 5 and 6 are the creepy desert shacks and murder cabins scattered around sandy shores and the Gran Senora Desert, blood on the walls, chains on the ceiling, TVs left on with static. These are fully documented locations, but the stories behind them are not. You know someone died here, you just don't know who. It's like Rockstar built crime scenes and then refused to give us the case files. Mystery 7 through 10 bundle together the other horror-adjacent spots. The slaughterhouse-style interiors, the cult-looking campsites, the random stalker NPC stories where someone follows you for blocks at night, and even those abandoned tunnels where the sound design gets way too real. Some are scripted interiors, some are just world detail, and some are pure community creepypasta. Fully explained, partially explained, and mostly anecdotal, all stacked on top of each other. In this video, I'm going to show you how, when you put these 10 in a row, Los Santos stops feeling like a parody of LA and starts feeling haunted. So here's how it goes. Revisit them in your own save. Go to Mount Gordo at 23:00, dive for the body bags, drive the desert highways, and actually stop at the shacks. See how many of the 110 set you can personally trigger or verify. Then, once you've stared the ghosts and killers in the face, we move into the next block of mysteries, where we trade ghosts for gods, or at least, gods according to the Epsilon program, which is its own kind of horror. Alright, we traded ghosts for gods, so let's dive into the cult stuff. Have you ever done the Epsilon missions and felt like the game was laughing at you, but also hiding something bigger behind the joke? In this video, I'm going to show you how Mysteries 11 through 20 take that feeling and crank it all the way up. Mystery 11 is simple on the surface. What are Epsilon's true motives? So here's how it goes. They promise enlightenment, blue robes, and craft. But mechanically, they mostly want one thing from Michael. Money. You hand over hundreds of thousands, do humiliating tasks, and at the end you either drive a gold car into the desert or walk away with $2 million. We know it's satire of real-world cults and celebrity self-help scams. But the question is that all it is? Mystery 12 is the missing track 9. The website lists tracks 1 through 10, the emails talk about them, but you never actually get track 9 in game. Cut content? A deliberate gap? Or Rockstar trolling the community that loves to obsess over missing pages in jetpacks? What happens after you read the others is nothing. No secret mission unlocks, no hidden cutscene. It's a messed up situation if you're a completionist. Mystery 13. Those unexplained Epsilon emails. Some of them reference higher clearances and levels you never see. They talk like there's an inner circle you'll never reach, even if you 100% the questline. Is that just flavor text? Or was there a second tier of missions that got scrapped? Mystery 14 is the robed NPC sightings outside missions. You know the ones, blue robes wandering in the desert or near Vinewood Hills when you're not on any Epsilon quest. They don't do much. They don't trigger dialogue. They just exist. It's like the game is quietly saying, yeah, the cult is still out there, even when you're not looking. Mystery 15 ties into the random events. You can find Epsilon followers hitchhiking, ranting, or getting into trouble. Sometimes they mention things you never see, like the higher plane or the vessel. Are these just jokes, or fragments of a bigger storyline that got chopped up and scattered? Here's the pattern interrupt. Why do Epsilon symbols show up near UFO sites? That's Mystery 16 through 18 rolled into a headache. Chiliad glyphs, weird logos, and alien imagery overlap with Epsilon. Talk about visitors. Rockstar has said Epsilon is parody, confirmed. But they've never fully explained why the cult vibe bleeds into the alien layer. Mystery 19 is that tractor ending. You give them the car, they give you a tractor. It's a real low blow. Are they testing Michael's faith? Or are they just badly organized scammers who ran out of ideas? Mystery 20. The $2 million betrayal route. You walk away rich. The cult never comes after you. And Kraft doesn't smite you. Is that our hint that this is all fake? Or is that exactly what a silent, watching alien god would do? Keep that in mind. Because next we hit Mysteries 21 to 30, where the cult symbols, the UFOs, and Mount Chiliad all start talking to each other. Alright, so here's where the rabbit hole really opens up. You've seen the cult symbols, you've seen the money. Now what happens after you start looking up instead of around? Mysteries 21 to 30 are basically the alien layer of G to V. And in this video, I'm going to show you how they all snap together instead of being 10 random campfire stories. Mystery 21 is the big one, the Mount Chiliad UFO. You only get it after you hit 100% completion in a thunderstorm at exactly 3 a.m., standing on the cable car platform. The first thing that happens is the clouds crack open and this black saucer with glowing glyphs phases in above the mural. It's not a rumor, it's not some guy on Reddit. You can reproduce it every single time if you nail those conditions. Mystery 22 is the Fort Zancudo UFO. Same deal, 100% completion, 3 a.m., but this time you fly above the base, around 600, 800 meters up. Suddenly a different saucer fades in, with that fib text and the same ring of lights. Try to get too close in a jet, and it hard vanishes. It's like the game is saying, yeah, you can see it, but you're not touching it. Mystery 23, the underwater saucer, is way more chill. No 100% required. Just head northwest of the map, deep ocean floor, and you'll find a crashed UFO half buried in sand. You swim up, there's the same circular panels, the same central dome, just busted up. So here's how it goes. Sky saucers are active and untouchable. Ocean saucer is dead and explorable. Mystery 24, the frozen alien in the prologue river, is the first thing the game ever shows you if you go off script. During the North Yankton robbery, drive the car off the road, walk under the bridge, and there he is under the ice. Same big eyes, same spindly body as the later peyote hallucination aliens. Again, reproducible every time. Mystery 25 and 26 are the alien egg props and the graffiti. You can find eggs in movie studios, on set pieces, and as background junk in labs. Then you start noticing the murals, UFO sketches in Solomon Richards' office, weird saucer graffiti under bridges, Chiliad glyphs that match the light patterns on the Zancudo craft. It's a messed up situation when the art team is basically screaming this is all the same tech, and people still think each UFO is a separate mystery. Mystery 27 to 30 are all those scattered symbols and wall paintings, from the altruist camp carvings to random alien heads in alleyways. Different locations, same iconography, concentric circles, little rays, 3 line clusters that echo the Chiliad mural. The more you catalog them, the more it feels like one shared origin, one in universe design language. So, is there a secret 11th trigger? A hidden jetpack spawn if you do all this at once? At this point, with a decade of code digging and time of day testing, it's real likely we've seen every official UFO event the game has. The mystery now isn't what spawns, but why did Rockstar want you to see this much? And that's where mysteries 31 to 40 come in. We're leaving the sky and going into the systems, hidden mechanics, rare events, stuff that actually changes how you play. You've seen what's watching you from above, but what happens after you realize the real weirdness is baked into the rules of the world itself? Alright, so here's where the game quietly flips from ghosts and UFOs to something way more personal: your bank account. Have you ever felt like the stock market in GTA V was some weird side feature you were supposed to ignore? Mystery 31 is that it's actually one of the most powerful systems in the game, but the game almost never tells you how it works. So here's how it goes. Lester casually drops hints before his assassination missions, but if you really listen, he's handing you a blueprint. Mystery 32 is the community discovered pattern. Invest in the company that benefits before the hit. Dump it at the peak, then buy the rival after it crashes. You can turn Franklin into a billionaire, and it feels like you broke the game, even though Rockstar clearly built it this way. It's like an intentional exploit, just hidden under throwaway dialogue. Mystery 33 is that this same manipulation bleeds into the in-game boss hack, which is tied to global player behavior. You can sit there watching a graph twitch because some random guy across the world decided to go on a killing spree with one brand of rifle. The first thing that happens is you realize, wait, this isn't just flavor text. This is a live, invisible system pushing back on you. Then you've got Mystery 34. Property incomes that don't behave how the game says they do. Some businesses pay out on weird timers, some seem to stall if you don't visit, and others spike after certain missions. Players swear that buying properties in a different order changes how fast you get rich. Is it real? Is it placebo? The game never explains, so you're stuck testing it like some unpaid QA. Mystery 35 is hidden wanted level behavior. You know how sometimes you blow up a car and nobody cares, but other times you sneeze near a cop and get 3 stars? There are radius checks, line of sight quirks, and those rare moments where a helicopter just refuses to spawn. It feels like the law has moods. That leads into Mystery 36, rare police AI patterns. Every once in a while a cop car will shadow you without lights, or officers will ignore an obvious crime but go insane over bumping a cruiser. It's a messed up situation when you realize the rules aren't really rules, they're probabilities. Mystery 37 is how clothing quietly affects NPC reactions. Dress Michael in a sharp suit and people compliment him. Throw Trevor in something disgusting and watch pedestrians flinch. Mystery 38 is vehicles doing the same thing. Show up in a supercar and traffic behaves differently. Drivers hesitate more. Some NPCs even pull out phones like they're taking pics. Mystery 39. Different protagonists get different random events. Some muggings, hitchhikers, or drug deals will only ever spawn for one character. So you can play for hundreds of hours and never know an encounter exists if you favor the wrong guy. And Mystery 40 is the big umbrella. Rockstar never surfaces any of this. No tutorial, no codex, just vibes and community spreadsheets. In this video, I'm going to show you how these invisible rules are just as spooky as any ghost, because what happens after you learn them is you stop trusting the map and start reading between the lines. Which is perfect, because next we're going inside the lines, Mysteries 41 to 50, where we leave systems behind and step into cut interiors, sealed doors, and the ghosts of missions that never made it out of the dev build. Alright, if the rules of the map are the surface level rabbit hole, these next ones are the secret basements. Have you ever finished the story and thought, wait, why did I only see that building once? So here's how it goes. Mysteries 41 to 50 are all about interiors that feel like they belong to a bigger game we never got to play. Mystery 41 is the fib building you raid in the Bureau raid. The first thing that happens is the game walks you through a super scripted path, but data miners and glitchers found whole extra floors and office layouts you never see. There are cubicles with props set up like people just left, briefing rooms, even different lab-style areas. It makes you feel like there were alternate mission routes, or a cut scenario where you sneak around instead of just burning the place down. Mystery 42, the other fib variant. You know that version with the blown-out walls, emergency lights, and crime scene tape? Normally you only get a tiny slice depending on which approach you choose. But if you clip out of bounds, the whole damaged interior is still there, like the game is holding two timelines in the same building and only letting you see one. Mystery 43 is Humane Labs. Not the part from the heist, the unused rooms. Past the doors the mission never opens, there are extra labs, storage spaces, and sterile hallways that go nowhere. Players glitch in and find keycard doors with nothing behind them, like the level designers finished the shell and someone upstairs just said, "Cut it." It's a messed up situation when the map is literally bigger than the story. Mystery 44, the one-off mission apartments. Michael's therapist office, the motel rooms, the random safe house-style interiors you visit exactly once and can never re-enter. You clear the scene, the mission ends, and that door is dead forever. It feels less like a sandbox and more like a movie set that gets struck the second the director yells cut. Mystery 45 is all those locked shops in Los Santos. Clothing stores you can't enter, a barbershop with a full interior behind an unopenable door, gun stores that only work in cutscenes. People have glitched into some of these and found half-furnished rooms, counters, even break areas. Were these meant to be usable, or just background detail that got a little too detailed? Mystery 46 to 49 are the pure glitch tour buildings, the big glass offices downtown, the apartment towers with lobbies you only see in online cutscenes, the movie studio rooms that exist but never load in story mode. In this video, I'm going to show you how the community basically turned into urban explorers. They stack cars, use director mode, or abuse job markers just to phase through a wall, walk around for 5 minutes, take screenshots, and then get kicked out by the game's loading system. Pattern interrupt for you. Imagine Los Santos as an abandoned Mo, and we're the last players sneaking into dev test maps. That's what these tours feel like. You're in a fully built office, no NPCs, no ambient sound, just your footsteps and the hum of fluorescent lights. It's a real low blow when you realize how many of these rooms were probably tied to cut missions we'll never see. Mystery 50 is the big question. Which of these were actual cuts and which were just overbuilt scenery? The extra fifth floors and Humane Labs wings look mission ready. The half-baked back rooms of random shops feel more like set dressing. But you know what happens after you notice this? You start wondering what else is hiding in the code, and that leads straight into Mysteries 51 to 60. where we stop looking at walls and start listening. Radio ads, phone numbers, creepy voice lines at 3 a.m., audio clues that hint at stories you never officially play. Let's get started on those next. Alright, so mysteries 51 to 60 are where GTA V basically tells you, shut up and listen. You stop staring at murals and start turning up the volume, because half the weirdest lore in this game is hiding between radio songs and in phone static. Mystery 51 is the cult chatter. You've got talk shows and late night segments casually mentioning groups that sound a lot like the Epsilon program, doomsday preppers, even unnamed desert cults. A host will laugh it off, but then they'll drop a line about people disappearing near the Gran Senora wind farm or out by the Alamo Sea. No waypoint, no mission, just a throwaway comment that sticks in your head the next time you drive past a random shack. Mystery 52 is the UFO talk. There are conspiracy callers who swear they've seen lights over Fort Zancudo or a saucer above Mount Chiliad during storms. It's funny at first, but once you've actually seen those UFOs in game, you start replaying those radio lines like, wait, did Rockstar literally warn us on the radio and we just tuned it out? Mystery 53 leans into missing people. Hosts mention unsolved hikers, a director who vanished up near a certain mountain, or callers who claim their friend went out on a boat and never came back. It lines up with places like Mount Gordo, that creepy shack near Chiliad, or the random body bags you find in the middle of nowhere. The first thing that happens is you think it's just dark humor. After a while, it starts sounding like a police scanner for stories we never get to solve. Mystery 54 and 55 are the standout clips that feel almost too specific. A caller describes a guy in a suit who keeps visiting a movie producer's office and talking about aliens. Then you remember Solomon Richards has that UFO drawing in his office. Another segment hints at military experiments under a certain base, right before they cut to ads. You know exactly which base they mean, but the game never hands you a mission where you break in and see it. Mysteries 56 to 58 are the phones. In this video, I'm going to show you how deep that rabbit hole goes if you actually start dialing. Some numbers play weird tones, others give you cryptic voicemails about enlightenment or tracks you never receive, and a bunch do absolutely nothing. Players keep asking, were these ever connected to cut content, or are they just there to mess with us? It's a messed up situation when a useless busy signal feels like a clue. Mystery 59 is how all this audio makes Los Santos feel alive off-screen. You're driving, a random caller is ranting about a cult in the hills, and you realize there's a whole story happening that you'll never see. It's like the map keeps going past the edges of what you can play. And Mystery 60? That's the big setup. Because if the radio can hint at UFOs and cults, what happens after you start looking up instead of around you? Clouds, sky messages, shapes and storms. That's where Mysteries 61 to 70 kick off, and it gets way more unhinged than you're ready for. So when you finally start looking up, you hit Mysteries 61 to 70, and the sky basically becomes a conspiracy board. Have you ever paused the chase just to stare at a cloud and go, wait, is that the Chiliad mural? Because people do that. A lot. Alright, Mystery 61 is the big one. Alleged cloud symbols over Mount Chiliad. Players grab screenshots where the clouds kind of line up like the mural's 3 lines and the UFO. Sometimes it really does look close. But the first thing that happens is, if you sit there long enough, you'll see the pattern change or another player post a totally different proof with the same sky. That's where you realize we're probably just cloud watching with an agenda. Mystery 62 is contrail patterns. Jets crisscrossing the sky that people swear are drawing arrows to Chiliad, to Fort Zancudo, to the ocean saucer. You know how it goes. Someone posts one perfect frame where the trails make a triangle, circles a UFO spawn point, and calls it a clue. Then you load in, wait an in-game day, and the trails are somewhere else. Repeatable? Kind of, in that planes always fly. Intentional message? Not really. Mystery 63 takes it into storms, lightning UFO coincidences. People notice that when the Zancudo saucer spawns in a thunderstorm, lightning sometimes hits behind it and lights it up like a reveal shot. It looks scripted. It feels scripted. But when you test it, the UFO spawn is fixed, and the lightning is just doing its thing. Cool timing, zero extra secret. Mystery 64 and 65 are where it gets wild. Faces in the sky textures, and Rockstar wrote words in the clouds. Zoomed in screenshots where someone outlines a sad face over Los Santos, or letters that supposedly spell Jock over Mount Gordo, tying back to the ghost. Once you see the outline they drew, you kind of see it, but then they start finding faces everywhere, and at that point it's just pareidolia turned into a hobby. Mystery 66 is the angel over Chiliad Cloud. 67 is the devil over the altruist camp. 68 is a supposed epsilon symbol in a sunset. 69 is a jetpack silhouette in a storm cloud. And 70 is the catch-all hidden sky messages theory. In this video, I'm going to show you how most of these only exist because someone paused at the right frame and the community ran with it. So here's how it goes. A game this big makes random noise. Our brains hate random. We want patterns. We want intent. We want Rockstar talking directly to us from the sky. And honestly, Rockstar knows that. They put UFOs behind thunderstorms, murals on mountains, weird drawings in Solomon's office. They set the vibe so hard that even the normal clouds start to feel suspicious. Even if these sky mysteries are unintentional, they still do something real. They make Los Santos feel alive in your head. You're not just driving, you're scanning the horizon like the next clue might be up there. It keeps you in that rabbit hole mindset. But right after this, we're coming back down to earth. Mysteries 71 to 80 are about stuff we can actually point to in the files. Cut missions, beta leftovers, interiors you were never meant to enter. No clouds, just cold data, and it's a messed up situation when that's even weirder than the sky. Alright, so if the clouds are trolling us, the files are where things get real. Mystery 71 to 80 are all about what happens after you look under the hood and find missions, lines, and scenes for a version of GTA V you never got to play. Mystery 71 is the big one. All those named but unused missions in the scripts. You see internal labels like extra fib jobs, extra heist setups, even early versions of the prologue. You never trigger them, but the game is still whispering their names in the background like ghosts of a different story. Mystery 72 is cut heists. There are references to a job at the port of Los Santos that never becomes a full score. Lamar has a stray line where he jokes about that time you almost got us killed at the docks, even if you've never robbed the docks with him. So here's how it goes. The dialogue acts like you did something the game never lets you do. Mystery 73 is deleted fib pressure. In the files, there are extra Dave and Steve conversations where they lean harder on Michael and Franklin about unfinished business and one more cleanup. It hints that the whole middle of the story was once packed with more agency drama, more blackmail, more of that feeling that the government is about to crush you. Mystery 74 is Lamar's missing arc. You get lines of him talking about my own crew and my turn to shine, but we never see that play out. It's a messed up situation when the character who feels like Franklin's heart was maybe supposed to get his own rise and fall, and all we get is background noise. Mystery 75 is Tracy's cutscenes. There are unused phone calls where she's mad about a reality show deal going bad, and a fragment where Michael actually shows up to a different audition to bail her out. You know how in this video I'm going to show you how consequences stack? This feels like the family storyline was meant to hit harder, then got trimmed. Mystery 76 is the random NPCs who reference events you never caused. A clerk complains about that shootout last week in a store you've never robbed. A taxi driver mentions the guy who crashed the chopper into the Maze Bank sign even if you didn't. Are these just flavor? Or leftovers from missions that got cut? Mystery 77 is the Infinity Killer, and Mystery 78 is Epsilon. But from the cut content angle, there are hints of extra notes for Merle Abrahams, and that infamous mention of Track 9 for the cult. We never see them, but the gaps make the killers and cultists feel like they were once hooked into the main plot instead of sitting off to the side. Mystery 79 is unused interiors, extra fib office space, different versions of Solomon's office with more movie props, even early variants of safe houses. They suggest a denser loop of visiting people, planning jobs, and checking in. And Mystery 80 is the big meta one. How all these scraps change how we read the mysteries that did ship. If there was once a busier, darker, more interconnected story, what else got sliced away? Don't get too comfortable, because in the last block, 81 to 100, we're zooming back out to the living world itself. NPC behaviors, rare events, and those open questions that still don't have a clean answer. Alright, so now we hit mysteries 81 to 90, and this is where the game starts staring back at you. Have you ever been playing, minding your own business, and some random NPC acts like they've been watching your whole save file? Mystery 81 is the classic stalker pedestrian. You rob a store, change clothes, swap cars, and 10 minutes later, that same dude in the red hoodie is just there again, across town, giving you side-eye. Mystery 82 cranks it up, NPCs who seem to follow you across multiple districts. You lose them in Vinewood. They magically respawn near you at the Del Perro Pier. And at some point you're like, okay, who hired this guy? Mystery 83 is pedestrians who seem to know your crimes. You'll clip a car 2 blocks away, and someone on the sidewalk yells, "That's the guy," even though they never saw it happen. Or after a rampage, you walk by a chill crowd, and one voice goes, "I heard about you," like the city has gossip. Then we've got the talkers. Mystery 84 is those rare dynamic conversations about UFOs and cults. You know when you're walking in downtown and 2 NPCs are casually discussing the Chiliad mural or some freaks in blue robes out in the desert? It feels like the game is commenting on your own conspiracy hunt. Mystery 85 is when they bring up Mount Gordo, ghosts, or lights over Fort Zancudo without you ever touching those events. It's like the radio, the pedestrians, and your late-night rabbit holes all sync up. Mystery 86 is strange crowd reactions in specific neighborhoods. Go to certain streets in South Los Santos, and people scatter at the tiniest bump. Head to rich Vinewood blocks, and they'll pull out phones, film you, and talk trash instead of running. Then there are weird outliers, like that one alley where everyone freaks out way more than they should. What happened there in the simulation that we never saw? So here's how it goes under the hood. The first thing that happens is the AI is trying to track crimes, line of sight, recent events, and location. It's not hand-scripted for you, but when those systems collide with known mysteries, it feels like intentional storytelling. NPC spawns glitch, pathfinding freaks out, and suddenly Mystery 87 is born. People spawning in impossible places, like inside locked interiors or on tiny ledges, just staring. Mystery 88 is the shadow convoy effect. You switch cars, switch outfits, drive across the map, and still see the same license plate 2 or 3 times in a row. Coincidence, or is the game quietly tagging you? Mystery 89 is when they seem to react to things you did hours ago, like a cop muttering about that psychopath earlier right as you walk by. Mystery 90 is the big one for this block. Your personal save file ghosts. These are the NPCs and glitches that only ever happen to you. No clip, no forum thread really matches it. In this video, I'm going to show you that these are the mysteries you kind of own. You might never get a clean answer, but they make Los Santos feel alive in a way a wiki can't explain. And if this is how weird it gets just from AI accidents, what happens after we step into Mysteries 91 to 100, where the community still can't agree on what's real and what's bait? That's where it gets messy. Mystery 91 is the big one. Did the Mount Chiliad mural ever have a second phase? Some hidden trigger nobody's hit? Or was it always just a one-and-done UFO tease? You've got one side saying, look, we spawned the Chiliad UFO in single player. We got the Fort Zancudo saucer at 3 a.m. in a thunderstorm. We even found the underwater one near the hatch. And nothing else happens. The other side goes, yeah, but why the jetpack icon? Why the cracked egg? Why the lightning bolts? You don't draw a whole conspiracy map just to say nice view, bro. So here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is people dig into files, scripts, even cloud textures trying to prove a second phase exists. Then someone points out that the Chiliad UFO literally has fib stamped on it and looks like a projector, like a government hoax. It's a messed up situation, because every new clue can be read as either genius foreshadowing or Rockstar trolling the entire player base. Mystery 92. Was Epsilon Track 9 cut content or never real in the first place? In-game emails reference it, the website hints at more wisdom, and then nothing. One camp says it had to be a scrapped follow-up mission, probably more deliveries or a final test. The other camp says that's the joke. A cult that promises enlightenment but literally withholds page 9 forever? That's peak Epsilon energy. After a decade, nobody spawned it legit. If it exists, it's hiding harder than Chris Formage. Mystery 93. Was there ever a planned Infinity Killer mission? We know Merle Abrahams is real. You find his notes, the body bags. The 8 is just Infinity stood up rant. But you never actually get a proper case file, a cutscene, a mission marker. Data miners have argued over leftover objectives and voice lines that kind of sound like setup for a detective-style mission. Others say no, it was always meant to feel unfinished, like you arrived late and the city just quietly moved on. Mystery 94 through 99 all orbit the same black hole. Is there any undiscovered UFO or event trigger left? People still swear there's a perfect combo of weather, time, 100% completion, peyote order, maybe even playing as a specific character in a specific outfit that will spawn something new. Every time someone posts a weird light over the ocean or a glitchy blip on the radar, the hunt spins back up. Alright, after 10 years, it's probably not a game-changing jetpack quest hiding out there. But tiny stuff still gets found. A new line of dialogue, a strange NPC behavior, a detail in Solomon's UFO drawing that suddenly feels important. Mystery 100 is the meta one. How many of these 100 mysteries were actually meant to be solved? And how many are just happy accidents we turned into lore? Rockstar never comes out and says, yeah, you got it, or no, you're overthinking it. And that's why the rabbit hole never dies. In this video, I'm going to show you the facts, but you own the verdict. Drop a comment telling me which mysteries you think were planned, which ones are pure trolling, and what happens after we stop assuming Rockstar has an answer for everything. Alright, step back for a second and look at what we just did. We didn't just go through 100 little Easter eggs. We basically peeled the skin off Los Santos and looked at everything pulsing underneath. When you put all these mysteries side by side, you realize GTA isn't just a crime sandbox. It's a full-on urban legend machine. Look at the range. 1 second you're creeping up Mount Gordo at 23:0, watching that ghost flicker in and out with Jock written in blood, and it feels like a horror game. 2 minutes later you're laughing at some Epsilon robe wearing rich guy getting scammed out of millions. Then you're staring at Infinity Killer clues and body bags. or trying to glitch your way under Fort Zancudo at 3 a.m. to see that untouchable UFO. It jumps from creepypasta to satire to conspiracy to pure rockstar systems are just weird in like 5 minutes. So here's how it goes. Most games keep their mysteries inside the story. GTA V spreads them into the world itself. The first thing that happens is you notice how many threads never fully tie up. Track 9 on the Epsilon site that you can never get. The Infinity Killer never turning into a proper mission. UFOs that despawn if you get too close. On paper that sounds unfinished. But in practice, it makes the map feel bigger than the script. You know there's stuff you'll never completely solve. And that's what keeps you driving back out into the desert at 4 a.m. Do I think Rockstar did that by accident? No way. I think they intentionally left some of these threads loose so the world could live past the credits. They know what happens after the story ends for most people. You uninstall and move on. But here, the game kind of whispers, hey, you never checked that cave. Or what if the mural actually means something? It's a messed up situation when a 10-year-old game still has you checking the in-game weather for thunderstorms just to see if a saucer appears. And then you add the community on top of that. The mapping, the data meaning, the Chiliad spreadsheets, the arguments over cloud shapes and radio lines. That obsession is basically free DLC. Rockstar doesn't have to patch anything. We generate the content by trying to prove each other wrong. Personally, a few of these hit way harder than others. Mount Gordo is peak atmosphere. No rewards, no checklist. Just you, the cliff, and that scream. The Infinity Killer is some of Rockstar's best environmental storytelling. Because you feel like a detective even though the game never says mission complete. And Chiliad. Chiliad turned into a whole era. Jetpack myths, alien egg hunts, people camping on the mountain for in-game weeks. That mystery didn't just affect players, it shaped the culture around the game. So now I'm curious, out of these 100, how many had you actually seen in your own saves? And how many are you suddenly tempted to go hunt down tonight? Because we're not done yet. And in this video, I'm going to show you how all of this ties into why GTA V just refuses to die. So now I'm curious about something else. Out of everything we just went through, where does your own game start to get weird in a way I couldn't even cover here? Because the first thing that happens with a rabbit hole like this is you realize everybody has that one moment where Los Santos feels like it's watching them back. Alright, I want you to do this. Scroll down and drop your strangest GTA V story in the comments, but make it timestamped. Tell us the in-game time, the location, the weather, who you were playing as. Was it 23:30 on Mount Gordo when you saw the ghost before you even knew she existed? Was it a Fort Zancudo thunderstorm where a UFO blinked in and out like it was lagging in real life? The more specific you are, the easier it is for the rest of us to go test it. So here's how it goes. I want to do a follow-up episode that's built entirely from your mysteries. No Reddit, no wikis, just viewer submissions. If you've got a story about a phantom train that spawned with no tracks, a random NPC that kept following you for in-game days, or some cut content feeling event out in the Chiliad woods, write it up like a mini case file. Who, where, when, what happens after. If it's detailed enough that I can recreate it, it has a real shot of making it into a viewer rabbit hole special. Let me throw a few questions at you to get the ideas going. Do you honestly believe the Mount Chiliad mural ever had a real solution? Or are you in the camp that says it was Rockstar trolling from day one? Have you ever actually seen the Mount Gordo ghost yourself? Not just in a YouTube clip, but on your own save at 23:00 sharp? Have you stood under Fort Zancudo in a storm and watched that saucer appear with your own camera shaking? Or does it still feel like an urban legend to you? Use the comments like an extension of the rabbit hole. not just a reaction space. If someone posts a theory about the Epsilon program or the Infinity Killer, push back, add clues, link in-game photos if you have them, but keep it respectful. We're all kind of like conspiracy nuts with controllers here, so argue your case, but don't be a jerk about it. And look, if you're still here this deep into a 117-minute breakdown, you are exactly the kind of person I make these videos for. You're the one pausing to read the notes, zooming in on the murals, camping on Chiliad at 3 a.m. just to see what flickers in the clouds. Don't go anywhere, because in a second I'm going to show you how all of this connects to the biggest unanswered question in GTA V that almost nobody talks about. So if you're still here, that means you just went through 100 separate mysteries with me. Think about that for a second. From the Mount Gordo ghost only showing up between 23:00 and midnight, to the Infinity Killer's body bags hidden in the dirt, to UFOs that only spawn during thunderstorms over Fort Zancudo. All of that, and it was just you and the base game. No mods, no trainers, no creepypasta edits. Just what Rockstar actually shipped. Alright, in this video I'm going to show you as much respect as possible and just say it straight. If you learned even one new thing about GTA V in this rabbit hole, hit the like button. That's the first thing that happens when you tap it. You're basically telling the algorithm, yeah, this 2-hour deep dive was worth it. It sounds small, but on my side it's a real low blow to spend weeks digging through files, testing weather cycles, camping on Mount Chiliad at 3 a.m., and then not ask you for the easiest support there is. Look, you've just watched almost 117 minutes of ghosts, killers, cults, UFOs, cut missions, hidden mechanics, all stacked back to back and actually explained. If that kind of long-form breakdown is your thing, don't just disappear into free roam again. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you actually see the next one. What happens after we finish with Los Santos? We can go into San Fierro rumors, Bully's weird cut content, Red Dead's missing people, or even open worlds outside Rockstar that are hiding the same kind of secrets. So here's how it goes. If you like having one place where everything is laid out step by step instead of chasing half-true forum posts, that's literally what this channel is for. You know those radio ads hinting at the Epsilon program? The track 9 you can never get? The random stock market glitches that only make sense if you know which missions to replay? That's the kind of stuff I want to keep breaking down with you. Slowly, clearly, without you needing a wiki open on a second monitor. And do me one more favor. Share this with that one friend who swears they've 100%ed GTA V and seen it all. Send it like a challenge. Tell them, alright completionist, if you already knew about the underwater saucer, the Chiliad mural, the ghost cars, and Solomon's secret UFO drawing, you're allowed to talk. Watching them realize they missed half this stuff is almost its own side mission. Because after going this deep, you're not going to move through this map the same way again. You won't just drive past Mount Gordo at midnight without checking the cliff. You won't look up at Mount Chiliad during a storm without wondering what's in the clouds. Even a random train horn or a flicker on the radar is going to feel like it might be hiding something. And we're not done yet. Because next I'm going to pull all of these threads together and show you the one big question that ties every single mystery on this map into the same messed up picture. Alright, so since we've just spent almost 2 hours pulling at every weird thread on this map, I don't want to just dump you back on the YouTube homepage and say good luck. If you're still here after 117 minutes, you're clearly in the rabbit hole mood. So here's how it goes. I'm going to turn this end screen into an actual map for where you go next. The first thing that happens is, in the top right, you're going to see what is basically the next chapter in this mystery series. That's my full Mount Chiliad deep dive. In that video, I'm going to show you every UFO spawn, The Zancudo saucer at 3 a.m. in a thunderstorm, the mural theories, the alien egg stuff, all of it, but as its own focused investigation. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, but what happens after we connect all the Chiliad clues? That's the one you click. I want that corner of the screen to feel like you're literally climbing one level higher up the mountain. Bottom left, I'll put the Epsilon only breakdown. That one is just you, me, blue robes, and a cult that acts like it runs half the state. We go through the website, the missing track 9, the fleet of blue cars, the money grind, every bizarre outcome you can trigger. It's a messed up situation, because the more you do for them, the less the game actually explains why they exist. If you love the cult hints and the secret text in this video, that's your follow-up. Then bottom right, to keep the horror energy going, I'll drop a compilation of the scariest GTAW encounters. Mount Gordo's ghost at 2300, phantom trains in the fog, random stalkers in the hills. Those nights where Los Santos feels like a horror game hiding under a crime story. That's for when you're like, I want more, but I don't want to think. I just want to feel creeped out. These 3 aren't random. They're picked to match exactly where your brain is right now. You don't have to scroll. You don't have to search. You don't get distracted by some completely different video. You just choose. Deeper into Chiliad, deeper into Epsilon, or deeper into the pure creepy stuff. Instead of bouncing off YouTube and forgetting half of this, you keep the thread going. And look, if you're watching on a TV, or you're lying in bed and can't reach the controller, or you've got autoplay off, I get it. Before the end screen pops up, I'll flash the full GTAV rabbit hole playlist name on screen. Add that to your watch later. Just cue it up so you don't lose the path we've been building. As the end screen comes in, I'm going to let the commentary fade and leave you with pure and game night. Wind dragging over Mount Chiliad. A distant siren somewhere in the city. Maybe a faint train horn way out in the dark. No big outro, no loud music, just Los Santos at night, while those 3 videos sit there waiting, so you stay in that ETAV headspace and decide how far down you actually want to go. And that's kind of the point, right? You turn the HUD off, you let the city breathe for a second, and you realize that, after all the heists, all the gunfights, all the big story choices, what actually keeps you coming back isn't the shooting or the driving. It's that feeling that there's always one more thing you haven't quite cracked yet. So here's how it goes. You think you're done, you've rolled credits, you know what happens after Death Wish, after killing Michael, after killing Trevor. But then you hear a weird radio ad about Epsilon, or you catch a glimpse of that Mount Gordo ghost at 23:0 for half a second, and suddenly you're back in. You're rewinding clips, you're Googling spawn times, you're flying up to Chiliad at 3 a.m. during a storm like it's the first week the game came out. Look, Rockstar could have tied a bow on everything. They could have given you a clean mission for the Infinity Killer, a final cutscene under Fort Zancudo, a big U solved it for the mural. They didn't. And it's a messed up situation in the best way, because never fully solved is exactly why the game still feels alive. As long as there's doubt about Chiliad, about Epsilon Track 9, about all that cut content sitting in the files, there's a reason for people to talk, to test, to argue, to come back. The first thing that happens when a game is truly finished is the community goes quiet. Here, the opposite happened. 10 years later, you still have people posting new UFO theories, lining up clouds with radio lines, trying to land on unreachable saucers. You've got players treating a throwaway ghost texture like a full horror quest. You've got entire channels built on what happens after you poke at some tiny edge case Rockstar never explains. That noise, that constant low buzz of what if, That's the heartbeat. And if you're still here listening to this instead of just speed skipping to another game, that already says something about you. You're the kind of player who notices a locked door in a random Blaine County shack and wonders why. Who hears a strange phone number in an ad and actually dials it. Who sees a blood-written name on a rock and doesn't just shrug and move on. I'm not going to overhype it, but without people like that, Los Santos would feel a lot smaller. So here's my last challenge. Next time you load your save, don't just grind money or chaos. Treat the map like a living mystery again. Go back to a place you haven't visited in years. Question every locked interior, every weird NPC behavior, every line on talk radio that sounds a little too specific. In this video, I'm going to show you 100 rabbit holes, but your save file still has its own. Alright, I'm closing this rabbit hole here. But you know how it is with Gita V. There's always another layer waiting in the dark.